In the summer she sat on the steps, and her soul was empty and dreary and bitter. When she caught the breath of spring, or when the wind wafted the chime of the cathedral bells, a sudden flood of memories would pour over her. Her heart would expand with a tender warmth, and the tears would stream down her cheeks. But that lasted only a moment. Then would come emptiness again, and the feeling, what is the use of living? The black kitten, Brishka, rubbed up against her and purred softly, but the little creature's caresses left Olenka untouched. That was not what she needed. What she needed was a love that would absorb her whole being, her reason, her whole soul, that would give her ideas, an object in life, that would warm her aging blood. And she shook the black kitten off her skirt angrily, saying, "Go away! What are you doing here?" And so, day after day, year after year, not a single joy, not a single opinion. Whatever Marva, the cook, said was all right. One hot day in July, towards evening, as the town cattle were being driven by, and the whole yard was filled with clouds of dust, there was suddenly a knocking at the gate. Olenka herself went to open it, and was dumbfounded to behold the veterinarian, Smirnov. He had turned gray and was dressed as a civilian. All the old memories flooded into her soul. She could not restrain herself. She burst out crying, and laid her head on Smirnov's breast without saying a word. So overcome was she that she was totally unconscious of how they walked into the house and seated themselves to drink tea. "My darling," she murmured, trembling with joy. "Vladimir Platonych, from where has God sent you?" "I want to settle here for good," he told her. "I have resigned my position, and have come here to try my fortune as a free man and lead a settled life. Besides, it's time to send my boy to the gymnasium. He is grown up now. You know, my wife and I have become reconciled." "Where is she?" asked Olenka. "At the hotel with the boy. I am looking for lodgings." "Good gracious bless you, take my house. Why won't my house do? Oh dear! Why, I won't ask any rent of you." Olenka burst out in the greatest excitement, and began to cry again. "You live here, and the wing will be enough for me. Oh, heavens, what a joy!" The very next day the roof was being painted and the walls whitewashed, and Olenka, arms akimbo, was going about the yard superintending. Her face brightened with her old smile. Her whole being revived and freshened as though she had awakened from a long sleep. The veterinarian's wife and child arrived. She was a thin, plain woman with a crabbed expression. The boy Sasha, small for his 10 years of age, was a chubby child, with clear blue eyes and dimples in his cheeks. He made for the kitten the instant he entered the yard, and the place rang with his happy laughter. "Is that your cat, auntie?" he asked Olenka. "When she has little kitties, please give me one." Mamma is awfully afraid of mice." Olenka chatted with him, gave him tea, and there was a sudden warmth in her bosom and a soft gripping at her heart, as though the boy were her own son. In the evening, when he sat in the dining room studying his lessons, she looked at him tenderly and whispered to herself, "My darling, my pretty, you are such a clever child, so good to look at." "An island is a tract of land entirely surrounded by water," he recited. "An island is a tract of land," she repeated, the first idea asseverated with conviction after so many years of silence and mental emptiness. She now had her opinions, and at supper discussed with Sasha's parents how difficult the studies had become for the children at the gymnasium, but how, after all, a classical education was better than a commercial course, because when you graduated from the gymnasium, then the road was open to you for any career at all. If you chose to, you could become a doctor, or if you wanted to, you could become an engineer. Sasha began to go to the gymnasium. His mother left on a visit to her sister in Kharkov and never came back. The father was away every day inspecting cattle, and sometimes was gone 3 whole days at a time, so that Sasha, it seemed to Olenka, was utterly abandoned, was treated as if he were quite superfluous, and must be dying of hunger. So she transferred him into the wing along with herself and fixed up a little room for him there. Every morning Olenka would come into his room and find him sound asleep, with his hand tucked under his cheek, so quiet that he seemed not to be breathing. What a shame to have to wake him, she thought. "Sashenka," she said sorrowingly, "get up, darling. It's time to go to the gymnasium." He got up, dressed, said his prayers, then sat down to drink tea. He drank 3 glasses of tea, ate 2 large cracknels, and half a buttered roll. The sleep was not yet out of him, so he was a little cross. "You don't know your fable as you should, Sashenka," said Olenka, looking at him as though he were departing on a long journey. "What a lot of trouble you are! You must try hard and learn, dear, and mind your teachers." "Oh, let me alone, please," said Sasha. Then he went down the street to the gymnasium, a little fellow wearing a large cap and carrying a satchel on his back. Olenka followed him noiselessly. "Sashenka!" she called. He looked round and she shoved a date or a caramel into his hand. When he reached the street of the gymnasium, he turned around and said, ashamed of being followed by a tall, stout woman, "You had better go home, Aunt. I can go the rest of the way myself." She stopped and stared after him until he had disappeared into the school entrance. Oh, how she loved him! Not one of her other ties had been so deep. Never before had she given herself so completely, so disinterestedly, so cheerfully, as now that her maternal instincts were all aroused. For this boy who was not hers, for the dimples in his cheeks, and for this big cap, she would have given her life, given it with joy and with tears of rapture. Why? Ah, indeed, why? When she had seen Sasha off to the